Interest rates, or gilt yields, as I'll be explaining in today's video, have a huge impact on defined benefit pensions, and most importantly, what cash equivalent transfer value you will be offered by your scheme in exchange for transferring out of your DB scheme. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what the relationship is, how interest rates affect DB schemes, what this means for you, and potentially what you can do about it depending upon what interest rates are doing. For anybody who's not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit the subscribe button below. It's genuinely the very best thing you can do to say thank you for me. If you think the content's good and you find it's enjoyable, lets the algorithm gods know that we're doing the right thing at YouTube. Okay, so number one thing you can remember is inverse relationship, okay? As interest rates go up, cash equivalent transfer values, or CETV values, will typically go down. Now, I'd like to very quickly start to make the clear definition between interest rates and gilt rates. An interest rate is what you get from your bank account, or in this sense, what we're talking about is the UK bank account rate, which currently speaking is 4% at the time of recording, but they've brought it down from all the peak it went up to as they think inflation is coming under control again. Now, that interest rate actually differs from, say, the 30-year gilt rate. The 30-year gilt rate time of recording, 8th of October, is around 5.5%, and the UK base rate is 4%. So there's actually a premium between these two. And that is in effect, the UK government and banks are offering, say, that as a short-term loan, but short-term interest rate. But in terms of a long-term outlook, the markets are factoring in that actually they think there's more risk. They think there's more bumps and things along the road. And over a 30-year period, you actually need 5.5% return in terms of the return that's required to obviously put capital away for such a long period of time. So what we're really talking about here, when I'm talking about interest rates, I really mean gilt rates. Because if you look at the moment, the base rate in the UK has come down from, 5-ish, 5.25% now down to 4%. But if you actually look at the 30-year gilt rate, you can type in online, 30-year gilt rate, Market Watch is a great one. You'll see the 30-year gilt rate has been continuing to increase. Now, remember point one, there's an inverse relationship between gilt rates and DB schemes, we can say. So what that means is the cash equivalent transfer values that are being offered at the moment are not as good as what they've been offered in, say, in 2020, 2021, early part of 2022, which could refer to the golden period of cash equivalent transfer values. Now, I've done videos on this topic before, and we have a lot of clients who are rightfully or wrongfully anchored at very high CETV values. I had a CETV in 2022 and it was £500,000. I'm now being offered £350,000. I'm going to wait until it goes back up to £500,000. Sounds like a good idea, but unfortunately, unless the UK government is going to go into a pandemic again and bring the base rate down to 0.1%, and we saw the 30-year gilt rate fall dramatically as well, it's very unlikely you are ever going to see cash equivalent transfer values of that magnitude again. So I think at the moment, if you have a defined benefit scheme, my advice would be to stop thinking so much about interest rates and gilt rates because you cannot control that. What you can control is your situation. Say you had a CETV that was worth £500,000 and now it's worth £350,000. You still have to ask yourself the logical decision, does your DB scheme meet your requirements in terms of your retirement and what you want to do? Obviously, all defined benefit pension assets over £30,000 need regulated and authorised advice from the pension transfer specialist. But before you even get anywhere near a pension transfer specialist and that paying money to anyone, think about your DB scheme. Does it work for you? Can you achieve what you want in retirement with it, or can you not? Some typical reasons that a lot of clients are looking to move away might be a phased retirement. Maybe they're 55, 60, and they want to retire before the normal retirement age of their scheme, which might be 60 or 65. So they want to take income, say, doing a transfer and taking income from a SIP, which they cannot do with their DB scheme, or they don't want to take early retirement from the DB scheme. So that's one of the main factors. Other factors really come down to beneficiaries. A lot of people feel like, well, if I have a £500,000 pension pot and only 50% will go to my spouse as an annual payment each year, I would rather know they're going to get 100% of the pot value if it were in something like a SIP. There's many other reasons why people may or may not consider moving away from a DB scheme. But in today's video, I really want to bring you back to the point in terms of interest rates. If you were sitting online thinking, right, I'm going to try to time my cash equivalent transfer value based on what's going on in the market, one, you could be waiting a very long time. You need the 30-year gilt rate to change dramatically from its current stature of 5.5% for you to get a higher CETV. If you actually look at what it's been doing at the moment, it's actually been increasing on the general scale over the past quarters and so. So you need to bear that in mind. The other thing to bear in mind is How much more expensive is regulated and authorized DB advice getting? If any of you are in your research journey, 3 months, 6 months, some of you do it for a couple of years before you reach out, you will probably see that the cost of getting authorized advice is increasing and the complications of getting it is increasing as well. So as CEO here at Cameron James, I always say to my advisors, don't count your chickens. Just because we can do DB advice now doesn't mean that in a year's time, 5 years' time, it's going to be easy to do so. And the cost could continue to get more and more exorbitant. When I first started hearing of the pension transfer specialist fee, it was £500. I mean, we're talking some years ago now. Now here at Cameron James, up to £3,750. So you can see over the course of the past 7 or 8 years, the cost has increased dramatically over that time period. If you want to have a conversation with one of our advisors here, get in touch to find out about your cash equivalent transfer value. We can look back at your fees look back at your dates and what other CETVs you've been offered, but more importantly, start gathering down what is your transfer rationale, what is it you think you can't achieve with your DB scheme that you want to achieve in your retirement, and then outlining to you what the options are to go through for authorized and regulated advice. And please remember, viewers, when you reach out to us, there is no cost. The only cost you ever have is clearly documented before you move ahead and actually take the authorized and regulated advice from the pension transfer specialist that we work with. That's clearly outlined to you long before. I hope this has been a clear video for you today, and the takeaway is there's always an inverse relationship between interest rates, brackets, the dominant gilt rates, and cash equivalent transfer values. And as always, take care of your UK pension assets.